Hi guys, welcome back to my series on I Was Burnt Alive at 21. Now obviously if you haven't seen the beginning ones, you need to go back, start at the beginning, because none of this will make sense. And yes, I will be talking in graphic detail about my injuries and what's happened and the things that have happened in general. No names, anything like that obviously, because that's private, but there is graphic content. So anyway, from where we left off, I am now on the road to recovery, like physically and mentally, which is really good because it was getting bad. And I'm now ready for rehabilitation. So I've not been out of my bed for weeks and weeks and weeks. So obviously I'm quite weak, but I need to start using my legs. So the skin grafts have taken. Everything's looking good. The only thing that is still actually an ongoing issue is the open sores on my legs. They've got a bit smaller, but they are still there and they are still weeping and there is issues, but nothing that can stop me from not learning to walk again, but actually starting to walk again. Because unfortunately, because of the amount of damage to my legs, like the behind my knee and everything, was obviously all this was burnt. It's all scar, so it's tight. So I need to start being able to straighten my legs and actually walking again. So the plan is each day I'd be helped with a nurse or whoever, or one of my family, and helped out of bed and held, so I can be guided and walk as much as I can, and to start trying to stretch the skin again and get a bit of mobility and stop my muscles from wasting away. So the good thing with this, the injection stopped. The minute I'm up and moving, I don't need a blood thinning injection. So that was an absolute positive. So, you know, I started with just moving around like the ward, because I was in the ward now, and just being guided a bit up the hallway and back to my bed. You know, it's just little and often. Don't go mad for obvious reasons, because you damage the skin. And so yeah, that, you know, for a couple of days I had the same old baths, take redressings and whatever, but to a point I was at peace with that, and that was what it was. So it was just a case of dealing with that pain when it happened. You know, we don't need to go through it. You all know exactly what's happened. You all know exactly what's was the problem, so, and the pain. So it was just recuperating and trying to walk and move. My hands, obviously all my skin on my hands was tight, so I had to start using my hands properly and lifting things. And yeah, and it was one morning this situation happened. My mum was up visiting on her own actually, and she was sat in a room with me. And the bad nurse, as we all know her now, put her head in the room. And she looked at me, she tutted, went, "Oh, you're just not putting any effort in, are you? Why can't you just put the effort in? There's people in here worse than you, and you're just sat there." And she said this in front of my mother. And considering I was putting effort in and I was doing what I needed to do, because I'm driven, I didn't want to be here. And I was told I wasn't leaving till I was basically mobile of my own accord. And she was so unbelievably rude, and then just walked off. And unfortunately, I don't do very well with things like that being said to me. And so I'm like, okay, I'll prove a point then. So I got out of bed, I walked to the edge of the ward, and I walked all the way to the end of the ward and all the way back. And I sat on my bed, and my mum looked at me and she goes, "Are you all right, son?" And apparently I just went white, and I fitted. I literally fitted, and every single muscle in my body just was spasming, and I was just shaking and shaking and shaking uncontrollably. And it was actually really scary, because I couldn't stop. Like my breathing got really irate. Like not panicky breathing, but it was that kind of, I couldn't take a smooth breath in. But whether that's because every single muscle in my body was just contracting and, and just, it's like being electrocuted. And so my mum pressed a panic button and the nurses came in and they were like, oh my God, and started, I say they weren't panicking. I wasn't too great, but one of them went off and come in with an injection of morphine to stop the contractions in my muscles. And as we all know now, that was probably the worst thing that could have happened to me. So the morphine went in. I didn't realise what it was until after the event. I just saw an injection come in. I got injected and the muscle cramping did slow down. It carried on, did slow down, but within minutes of that injection, yeah, so that was a bit of a mistake, and it was, a genuine mistake. So yeah, I had, now obviously I don't know how much I was given, but I was urging for quite a while, and I obviously had very sore ribs from the last ones, and I obviously cracked a couple, so they were still really tender. So I had a few hours of urging and pain, and and the nurse said to me, she said, why on earth would you do such a stupid thing? And I just said, the bad nurse put her head in the room, tutted at me and told me I was not making enough effort and there's people in here worse than I am, and not that I'm a waste of space, but I'm wasting their time or her time being here because I wasn't working hard enough to leave. And she just frowned and walked off. I was like, okay, fair enough, that was that. And interestingly, that's the last time I saw that nurse, the bad nurse. Last time I saw her. Never saw her again from that point. And I was in for a couple more weeks and I didn't see her again. So, no matter what shift she would have been on, I would have seen her eventually because I was there 24/7. So, and unless she had 2 weeks holiday suddenly thrust upon her, I never saw her again. So take of that what you will. And I actually don't know what happened. I don't ask, and I didn't care. She was not a very nice person. But that again wasn't my fault. Well, okay, I'll take that back. My reaction to what she said was completely my fault. It was. But she had no right to say what she did, and she had no right to do and say what she said. So at the end of the day, that situation, I'm hoping that, they realise that after all of the complaints and the things that have happened in this set of videos, that they realise that these things weren't true. I wasn't making these things up. And what happened to me was happening to me with her. And especially the claim, she claimed I'd hit her with that really bad bath, because I never touched her. And if I did, I would have apologised to the end of the earth. I'd never hit a woman in my life. That is something you do not do. And even if it was an accident, I still would have felt horrendous, But I know I didn't. I absolutely know I didn't. But again, that is something that is what it is. So yeah, I got over that. Following day, back to normal, back to having dressings done, no more injections, and just rehabilitation, up walking around. Now, I wanted to go home. I was at that stage where I just didn't want to be in there anymore. I'd sick and tired of the place. I'm sure they were sick and tired of me. And I was literally begging to go home. And they said, you've got to be up, you've got to be walking, you've got to be like perfectly mobile before you can leave here. And I'm like, that's fine. I'll just smash that out of the park. Give me a bit of time. That's not a problem. I can get up. The pain I don't care about. I just want to be out of this place now. And that's no offence to them. I just didn't want to be there. It was really dragging me down. So that's what I did. I just relentlessly just got up and moved, so I could just prove to them I was mobile. I'll just appear at the nurses' station every now and again just to show them that I was moving. And they was like, oh yeah, maybe tomorrow, and then it was maybe tomorrow, and it constantly was maybe tomorrows. And all my wounds, like I said, other than the sores on my leg, the rest of my wounds, yeah, they weren't pretty, but they were obviously healing well. So everything was looking good, other than my inner thigh that was still, and it was wide open. I won't lie, it wasn't great, but everything else was fine. Obviously it's all bad, but it was healing nicely. So I just wanted out. I wanted out, and I was doing what I could to get out. And my girlfriend at the time, was visiting as much as she could, and I wanted to surprise her. I wanted to eventually. I didn't want to tell her I was going till I knew I was being able to go and she could take me home. And in the end, I managed to convince the doctor. I just was literally, look, this place is not helping me now. I feel like it's holding me back now. I just think I'd heal better at home, where I've got that kind of drive to just get out of bed and not be here and not be, and I don't mean it in a disrespectful way to the staff of the place. They were all amazing, bar that one nurse. But we all know we want to be at home. None of us want to be sat in a hospital. So, that's how it had to be. And he buckled and he said, right, I tell you what, I'll have a word with your surgeon, and I want him to check that everything is okay with your, where the grafts were and all that. And if he agrees with me, we will allow you to go home tomorrow under some incredibly strict rules. And those rules were very strict and, to be fair, costly, but I just didn't care. So the rules were, I had to go to my doctor's back where I lived every single morning at 7 o'clock to have all my dressings changed by a professional, rather than, I'd been there so long I could actually do them myself. And they did give me loads and loads of dressings and bits and pieces so for me to help myself at home. If anything happened, I could do it. But I had to go every single morning to my doctor's to be checked by a professional to make sure things are okay. And every single weekend, I had to travel back to that hospital to see the surgeon and the doctor so they could see my progress. So I was kind of getting out, but I still had to come back every weekend and doctors every morning, but I just didn't care. I'm like, yeah, perfect, I'll do that. That's fine. I had people that could take me to the doctors. I had people to take me to hospital. I just wanted out, and that was it. I was going to stick to those rules, and I did stick to those rules. So when my then girlfriend visited me that evening, I didn't tell her that I was going to be allowed out the following morning, but I did ask her if she could come in the morning for a change. And I think it was a Saturday anyway, so it wasn't like she couldn't, but I asked if she could come and see me that morning, yada 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 kind of thing. And that was it. And all night long I buzzing. I didn't sleep. There was no oxygen injections because I wasn't having them. But all night I was like, I'm going home. I just so excited. I just brimming with excitement, because finally leaving the hospital and all this bad situation is over. And so that night went, and in the morning, obviously, I had my breakfast, I had my dressings done. Now, finally, the dressings weren't so painful because I was healing better. They weren't bleeding so bad. So everything was just so much better, so much better. And I had all like I said, other than my wounds on my inner thigh, I was fine. I was pretty much there. There was a lot of, don't get me wrong, there was a huge amount of rehabilitation. They said they literally said you will not be able to walk properly and upright for months, minimum of 3 months before I'd be able to stand completely upright, because all the skin on the backs of my knees was so tight, it wouldn't allow my leg to completely straighten. So it's going to take at least 3 months for me to stretch that skin to allow my knees to go straight so I can walk completely upright, which, it's rehabilitation. It is what it is. So that's fine. I didn't mind that. So in the morning, I got all of my stuff done. I obviously had to sign the paperwork to let me out. They gave me all the bandages and bits and pieces I'd need for the upcoming weeks, and of doing my own dressings if I needed to. And they obviously got in touch with my doctors to confirm about me going in every morning at 7 o'clock to be done. So when my then girlfriend turned up, I was literally ready to just get in the car and go. And I was that excited I could have cried. You know, I know I sound like a bit of a crybaby, but I was just so excited to go home. So excited to go home. So she come in and she's like, hi, and I'm just like, let's go. She's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, let's go. I'm done. We can go. So she gave me a hug and it was all like, yeah, this is amazing. And they actually did wheelchair me to the exit of the hospital. And then obviously I just very, very slowly kind of edged my way to the car. And I got in that car, shut the door, and we started driving home. And I was just looking around, and I can only liken this, and this might sound stupid, and it could be completely wrong, to being let out of jail and how people feel when they leave jail. Because I was just looking at everything almost in a different set of eyes, everything just, and it was a beautiful, beautiful sunny day as well, and it was a crisp morning, and the drive back home is all country lanes and a lovely road. And I was just looking at the trees and the sky, and I was just, it was magical. It was truly magical, and I just felt amazing. I felt absolutely amazing. So got home, obviously saw the family, I got settled in. I stayed at my parents' because I still needed pretty much 24/7 people there if they needed me there. So I lived at my parents' for quite a while I was recuperating from this all. And so for the first few days, I was buzzing, absolutely buzzing. And one evening, I was sat in my parents' living room looking out over the valley, because they used to live, we had this beautiful valley. And I remembered the lads on the motocross bike playing around in the field. And I was like, my motorbike's over in the garage. And I thought, I miss that thing. I miss it so much. So I phoned the good friend of mine who I used to race with. And I said, look, that hasn't turned a wheel in weeks and weeks. And motocross bikes don't do sitting around. It was a two-stroke. It was a CR500, if for any of you there that like it. It was a 1989 CR500. And it was sat in a garage doing nothing. And I just wanted to hear it. I wanted to see it ridden. And I phoned my mate and I said, can you come over? And I'll jump in the van with you. I say, jump. I'll get in the van with you. And we'll take the bike to a local track up the road from us. And can I just watch you ride my bike? And I want to hear it. I want to smell it. I just missed it so much. And it's something to drive me to kind of really get better. He's like, yeah, of course I can, mate, And so following morning, turns up with his van. He gets my bike out of the garage. He puts a bike in the garage and he comes over and he helps me into the van, and we're driving along and we're chatting. And it was amazing. I just felt, I was cloud nine. I just felt so amazing. And it's just like good old times, So we got to the bottom of this track, and he gets my bike out and he fires it up, and it just sounds amazing. And I was all tingly. I was just so excited. And so I walked up this little path very slowly and very carefully to where there's a point where you can kind of see most of the track. And I just stood, and it's like on a raised bank. And he come up, he rode my bike up, he kind of basically followed me up to make sure I was all right. And then he went out and did a couple of loops, warmed it up, and started having a bit of fun with it. And, again, it was very emotional, very, very emotional for me. And I was, like I said, I was tearing up, really, just how good I felt. And looking back on all I've been through, and looking back, it's laying in that day room and looking at those lads playing a field, and just remembering how bad it was and how hard it was for me, and how much I just wanted to be in that field with those lads playing. And now I'm stood here watching, my best friend riding my bike, and he come over and he pulls up in front of me and kills it, and I just said to him, thanks, this is just phenomenal. I just feel so good. And he was buzzing that he could help, and we had a bit of a laugh. And I just said to him, I said, I'd love to have a ride. And he's like, oh no, don't be stupid, that's just stupid, you can't do that, that's just really, really stupid. I'm like, I said, I can stand. I said, if you start it, I can just get on. I'll have just a silly pootle around. I won't do anything stupid, won't do any massive jumps. I'll just cruise around on the flat and just feel it. And then I said, I'll just pull up next to you, you hold me, and I'll get off. And away we go. And he's like, nah, you can't do that. Don't be so stupid. Well, you've spent all this time out of hospital, in hospital, and now you're out of hospital, and you're just going to put yourself back in it through just being stupid. I'm like, yeah, but this is amazing. I feel amazing, and I want to have a go. And he was so adamant I shouldn't have a go. And fair play to him, he's like, no, don't be so stupid, you're an idiot, and other choice words that I will not say. I said, look, mate, I need it. Truly, I need this. And you're here. I won't be stupid. I won't go mad. I need this. This is a personal thing. It's, for my soul. And he did relent. He didn't want to, but he knew I wasn't going to give up. So he fired it up, and he held it. And I just, because the way this bank is, I could literally just put my leg over, sit down on it, and he held it, and I just pulled away, and I just rode around and around, and I just rode and rode and rode. And I didn't do anything stupid. I didn't do any jumps. I didn't do any stupid hard accelerations. I just rode. And anyone that knows these bikes, they're just savagely powerful, but they sound phenomenal. It's this huge single cylinder two-stroke. It's like bang, bang, bang. They've got this real distinctive sound to them. And I just was riding, just bimbling around, sat there, just crying. I know, crying. And it was so emotional, so amazing. And then I kind of semi-stood up, and I just went to the end, right to the end of this field, and come back, and I kind of leant a little bit forward and just accelerated, not hard, just give it just to feel that power. And yeah, it was amazing. And so anyway, I go back to him, I pull up, I stop, he just grabs me quickly, he holds a bike, I step off. He gives it a good hiding then, because I've probably choked it up a bit. So he goes out, gives it a real good hiding, and I'm just stood there watching him, and I'm absolutely on cloud nine. It's just the most amazing feeling. And he's ripping around, and then he comes back, and I thought, let's get going, because I am now feeling quite weak and a bit sore. So we go back to the van, and he loads it up, and we get back to my house, and he goes and puts the bike in the garage for me, gives me a hug, says goodbye, off he goes. And I go into the house, and my mum notices there's lots and lots of blood on the back of my trousers. So we take my trousers off, and directly behind my knees is pretty much pouring out blood. And so she asked why, and I told her what I'd done, to which she had a right go at me and told me how stupid I am and how I shouldn't have done that. Which, she's right. But, and this is a big but, I could walk upright. And yeah, yes, it hurt. It did hurt, but I could walk. So the following day, obviously, we redone my dressings and cleaned myself up. And the following day, I went to the nurse in the morning, and she also had a go at me. Because I was honest, I didn't lie. I told her what happened and told her why. And she had a go at me and said I could be undoing all this good work that all these people have done, which is 100% true. And it was very irresponsible of me. I would never say that it wasn't. but I needed it and I could walk. So I come away from there and back home, and I didn't do it again. And, you know, rinse and repeat for the changing the dressings and all that. Saturday comes and I go back to hospital. And obviously this had been, she'd put this in the notes. So when I got to hospital, they weren't happy with me for what I'd done. But I walked into the hospital upright. And I walked into the doctor's office and the surgeon was in there and they weren't happy with me. And I said, I can walk. You said it's going to take me 3 months. It's 2 weeks and I can walk properly and comfortably. And so they took my dressings off and they checked. And they said, it's healing well. It is healing well. Where I damaged it, so basically what I'd done is torn the skin behind both of my knees. But it was healing where I'd torn it. So it's torn and I've walked upright, so it's healing, torn. And they still moaned at me, but they said, we'll keep an eye on it. And I went to the doctors every day for weeks, and I went back to hospital every weekend for weeks, and it was done. I could walk. So instead of 3 months, 2 weeks, and it was done. Now, yes, I was irresponsible. Yes, I shouldn't have done it. I 100% get that, but I needed it. And I was walking, and I've never had a moment's problem from my legs since. So, and there's not even bad scarring behind my knees from where that happened. It's all healed beautifully. So yeah, that was a really massive thing. So anyway, I'll leave you there for now, because that's you know, it's a bit of a long one and I don't want it to get too boring. So I hope you're enjoying this. There's a little bit more to go, so let us know in the comments what you think and if you're enjoying it, and like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers guys.